Okay, hello everybody. I'm here to play Dead Frontier Outbreak. Found this on the internet and I decided, well, I might as well play it. And since everybody out there didn't like the series, I'm not gonna play any more Surgeon Simulator. So let's go ahead and play this game.
Started as a normal day, just like any other. I took a shower and grabbed a quick cup of coffee before heading out of the front door and waving goodbye to my loving wife. I jumped on board the bus, sat down, turned on my MP3 player, and promptly entered my usual daydream state. I finally arrived at my office building, headed up the 10th floor, and sat down at my desk to see a huge pile of paperwork. I sighed and got started.
Glad I didn't have to read that.
A scream coming from down the hall broke my concentration. I considered going to see what it was, but the thought quickly passed. Probably just another hysterical secretary overreacting to a spider. Just as I started getting back to work, something else grabbed my attention. I peered out the window into the street below. To my astonishment, saw a scene of utter chaos. People fighting, even killing each other for seemingly no reason. By this time, some of my coworkers had gotten up from their desks and joined me in staring out the window. The common room was crowded with coworkers, and I could barely see or hear anything with all the commotion. I only managed to pick out the phrases psychovirus and destroy the brain. At this point, I felt myself entering a state of mild shock. It was obvious that whatever was going on was serious, and that a significant percentage of the population were going to be killed or wounded over the course of the next few days. My thoughts quickly turned to my wife. Was she okay? What if these maniacs were near our home? I dialed the number, but immediately got an error tone. I tried several more times before giving up. I was annoyed with myself for wasting time. I should have known the phones would be overwhelmed. I then
I
decided
should have
that I would
known.
go home and make sure that my wife was okay.
Yeah, let's go.
I began to make my way through a series of corridors that lead to the elevator. On my way, I noticed a struggle out of the corner of my eye. I turned to see a disfigured man frantically clawing at and biting a young woman's leg. Blood was already pouring from her multiple wounds. The woman cried out for me to help her. I
I can't
continued
help
down
her.
the hallway, ignoring the woman's cries for help. She would have been infected, and it wasn't worth the risk.
And I've
I
got a
arrived
wife.
at the elevator, but to my dismay, it seemed many other people had the same idea. I heard a ping, and the elevator doors slid open. In a split second, the large crowd of office staff pushed and shoved their way into the tiny metal box.
Well, I say we take the
I
stairs.
quickly made my way down the stairs to the ground floor. Sure, I was a little out of breath, but at least I saved time and avoided a potentially lethal situation. I eventually reached the ground floor and entered the lobby. The scene in front of me was one of extreme violence. The security team was desperately battling with a swarm of infected, and they appeared to be losing. I watched helplessly as a guard on the opposite side of the room was torn limb from limb. I noticed his gun lying on the floor just a few meters away from his dismembered corpse. I managed to dodge several zombies, but just as soon as I got close to the gun, I slipped on a pool of blood. I stumbled directly into the group of infected. I frantically tried to escape their grip, but it was hopeless.
Let's try again.
There was a scream coming from down. The radio began blurting out all kinds of information. It said that a new breed of virus had been discovered, one that would change its victims into a homicidal maniac. This virus was highly contagious and spreading rapidly. Their advice was to stay where I was, and that if I were to encounter an infected person, I should try to destroy their brain. At this point,
Let's just go home and see if she's okay.
began to make
Obviously, we skip this one. We don't go to
the hallway, ignoring the woman's cries. I arrived
take the stairs.
I quickly made
I'm sorry about that, guys. Let's go to escape the rear exit.
away without any infected noticing, and proceeded quickly towards the rear exit.
Nice.
I made my way through several corridors towards the back of the building. As I approached the rear entrance, I spotted a hefty padlock across the bolt, making it practically impossible to open without a key.
The janitor would have had the key, but reaching his office would have required going back towards the lobby. Let's go to the janitor's office. I began retracing my steps back toward the lobby. Sorry about that, guys. Got a frog trying to get on my throat, apparently. After a minute or so, I was very close to the janitor's office. I rounded the final corner, but was forced to stop dead in my tracks. A group of around a dozen infected was blocking the corridor ahead. One of them saw me and let out a bestial groan, alerting the entire group to my presence. Without a hesitation, I turned and tail fled toward the door. With the infected hot on my heels, I frantically began looking for another exit, but my efforts were in vain. Let's try again. We're gonna want a cell phone. Go home. Leave the woman to her doom. Take the stairs. Rear exit or main exit? I'm gonna go with rear again. I can't charge down the door. Let's go for a window. I remember that there was a small window in the male bathroom just a few doors down the corridor. I arrived at the bathroom door and pushed it open. Suddenly, I heard a bestial roar coming further down the corridor. A dozen infected had spotted me and were now heading my direction. I quickly entered the bathroom and spotted a window that I had been thinking of. However, to my dismay, it was much smaller than I remembered. I thought I would probably fit, but I was going to be a very tricky maneuver. Not wanting to waste time, I set about trying to squeeze through the window. A few awkward movements and a lot of pain later, I managed to force my way into the street, escaping with the infected with only seconds to spare. I dropped from the window and landed on the pavement with a heavy thud. Looking up and down the quiet back street, I noticed what to do next. Eventually, I came to the conclusion that my best bet was to head to the main road and try to steal a vehicle or catch a lift. I jogged down the quiet street for several meters before stopping to catch my breath. I looked up and briefly saw a little girl wandering aimlessly in the middle of the road. Ignore the little girl. I realized that the girl was most likely infected, and therefore I decided to ignore her and continue down the street. I eventually arrived at the main road. As I suspected, the scene wasn't pretty. In every direction I could see that people were either trying to fight or flee from the numerous infected. An array of dismembered corpses already littered the streets. I suddenly felt nauseous. Within a few moments, I was vomiting my breakfast all over the pavement. Pancakes. I wiped my mouth with my sleeve and looked up to see a bus driving down the street, a number of the same ones I usually took home. There appeared to be a lot of people on board, but I already thought I might be able to squeeze in. Ignore the bus. Exactly.
As I continued down the street, I noticed several groups of people. Just across the road was a group of men with rifles. They appeared to be having fun shooting the zombies rather than trying to escape. In the alley, I could just about see a group of teenage boys armed with a variety of makeshift melee weapons. A few meters from where I was standing, a paramedic and an armed police officer were helping a wounded man, and as I glanced over my shoulder, I saw a group of survivors from my office building heading in the same direction. I decided that it was probably best to team up with other survivors.
Men with rifles would probably kill me. Teenage boys would probably get themselves killed. Paramedic and police officer, the wounded man would probably kill them. And the co-workers would probably not be skilled at all, or with any weapons. Let's go with the teenage boys.
I made my way to the teenage boys and began following them down the street.
Whilst the group of teenagers had a good chance of defeating any infected that they encountered, they aren't likely to care much about you. In a sticky situation, their preference would probably be to leave you behind. Okay. I told the group that I thought we should try some transport and get out of the city center. One of them suggested we go to the parking area a few blocks down. We quickly agreed to our strategy and made our way down the street. As we approached the car park, we noticed a few infected wandering idly around the entrance. There was no real way to avoid them. Suggest we try to run past them. Suggest fighting them as a group. Distract them away from the entrance so the others can get through safely. Convince one of the others to distract them. Fighting them as a group. Nope. We moved toward the zombies, clutching whatever makeshift weapons we had and tried to engage them. The first thing seemed to be going well. We knocked one of them to the ground. Someone managed to smash his head with a rock. However, it was not careless as one of them got bitten. Eventually, the noise from all the commotion attracted yet more infected, and we soon found ourselves hopelessly outnumbered with little hope of escape. Let's try again. Ignore her. Next. Ignore the bus. Next. Let's go toward the co-workers or men with rifles. Co-workers, men with rifles. Co-workers, men with rifles. They will probably kill me. These are my co-workers. This group is probably the best choice. None of them were injured, and since they know you, they are much less likely to leave you behind in a sticky situation.
I told the group that I thought we should try to find some transportation.
And get out of the city center. One of them suggested we go to the parking area a few blocks down. We quickly agreed to our strategy and made our way down the street. As we approached the car park, we noticed a few infected wandering idly around the entrance. I say we run past them. We ran swiftly toward the car park, ducking and weaving between the zombies. Unfortunately, one of us stumbled and fell to the ground with a definite thud. By the time the rest of us noticed, it was already too late. The zombies had pinned him and were tearing away at his flesh. Without saying a word to one another, we continued our way and left him to his fate. At least one me.
On the far side of the parking area, we found a pair of road motorbikes. Closer to us was a four-wheel drive all-terrain Jeep, a large freight truck, and a convertible sports car.
Motorbikesmen with rifles would kill us to get. Jeep, off-road, on-road, and it can carry a lot of people. Freight truck would be hard to get out of there. And sports car would be too easy to kill us if they were zombies. So we're going to take the Jeep.
I suggested that we take the Jeep, and the others quickly agreed. Having the ability to go off-road if necessary would be incredibly useful, especially since many roads would have been blocked with traffic, accidents, or zombies.
Exactly. Next.
We approached the Jeep and peered inside. To our dismay, we saw a pair of infected inside, desperately clawing at the windows in an attempt to escape.
Pulling the zombies could work. But I guess we'd be too stupid to do it, and I'd probably die. I'm gonna pull the zombies. And no. We opened the doors, reached inside the Jeep, and tried to pull the infected from the vehicle. As I dragged the rotting body to the tarmac, I felt a sharp pain, looked down at my horse, saw blood pouring from several bite marks left on my forearm. I momentarily engaged glances with others before running as far away as I could. It wouldn't be long before I became a zombie. Try again. Ignore her. Ignore the bus. Co-workers. No. Sorry guys, that was my mistake. I clicked the wrong one. Okay, so we can't take the Jeep. We may be able to take the freight truck. They quickly rejected my idea, stating that the freight truck would be too slow and wouldn't have enough maneuverability. The rest group decided we should take the Jeep. That's what I thought. I really want to try to help them, but it would be so much easier to leave them on one of the motorbikes or in the sports car. Let's try to help them and see what happens. No. Try again. Ignore. Next. Ignore. Next. Coworkers. Next. Run past them. Next. Jeep. Next. Other vehicle. Next. Escape in the motorbikes. I climbed aboard my chosen vehicle and sped away from the car onto the main street. By then the roads were littered with bodies and car wreckages. It was all I could do to avoid them. Everywhere I looked I could only see a scene of carnage, but it seemed those not already infected were fighting a losing battle. My thoughts quickly turned to my wife. I tried to tell myself that she would be okay, but that didn't stop that horrible feeling in the pit of my stomach. I knew I had to get home as soon as possible. In the distance, I could see a gas station with a few zombies on the forecourt. I quickly glanced down at the fuel gauge and saw that it only had about half a tank remaining. Let's go down the road. We have half a tank remaining. We're good. I decided not to stop for gas or supplies due to the potential danger. Half a tank was gas was more than enough to get home anyway. Yeah.
Nobody had kept to their lanes, and cars were packed so closely together that not even a bicycle could squeeze through. The blockage extended so far down the road that it was literally impossible to discern what the cause was.
You don't want to wait patiently. I want to take it off-road, but I don't know what kind of motorbike it is, and it might not work out. But I could find another route home.
There was no point in waiting for the traffic to clear, and that without the Jeep, driving off the road was just too dangerous.
I know.
I headed back the way I came and turned off the highway at the first exit. I soon found a safer, albeit less direct route home.
Nice.
As I sped down the disturbingly quiet back road, my mind began to wander. Without the distraction of imminent danger, I began to remember the horrific scenes I had witnessed just an hour ago.
Don't worry about it, dude. It's all good.
Mangled corpses flashed before my eyes, and my head began to spin. I swerved onto the wrong side of the road, just as another vehicle pulled out from a concealed entrance. I braked sharply, but it was too late to avoid a collision. Amazingly, I wasn't seriously injured, but my ride was badly damaged.
Take the other guy's ride. I say we try to steal the other driver's car.
To the car, I realized that the driver was either unconscious or dead. I didn't care which. I opened his door, removed his seatbelt, out and dragged him out of the driver's seat, not noticing the deep bite marks on his arms and neck. Before I realized he was infected, he regained consciousness and sunk his teeth into my wrist.
Dang it.
And run off.
Try again. Let's just carry on foot.
I realized that without transport, I would have to walk the rest of the way home. Not wanting to waste any more precious time, I continued my journey on foot. After a half an hour of walking, I began to recognize my surroundings and knew that I would soon be home. There were several different routes I could take.
Okay, the train line would probably be nice. Cornfields might have some zombies hiding in it. The woods might have zombies. I'm gonna go with the train line.
I decided to get off the main road, as it would undoubtedly be dangerous in such a heavily populated area. I decided
Exactly.
to follow the train line instead, since it ran not far from my house and would be totally deserted. Sure enough, I didn't see another soul.
Nice.
I finally arrived in my neighborhood, exhausted. I knew that my house was just a little further down the street, but the area was swarming with the infected. Most of them seemed distracted by what few survivors remained, but I knew it was only a matter of time before they noticed me. I remembered about a small alleyway nearby, one that would take me most of the way home in relative safety. I entered the alley, and as expected, it seemed totally devoid of life. However, as I walked past a large dumpster, an infected old man stepped out of the shadows and tried to grab me.
You don't want to punch him in the face. He could bite you. You don't want to throw him over your shoulder. He could bite you. Don't want to grab him by the neck. He could bite you. Torso.
His shoulder and pushed him backward, narrowly escaping being bitten.
Nice.
I had bought myself valuable time, but it wouldn't take long for the creature to regain its balance and come at me again. I turned to run back the way I had came, only to see that another group of them had followed and were now blocking my retreat. My only hope was to try and get past the lone infected.
It's an alleyway, so it's narrow. Let's run past him.
I scrambled to my feet and ran at him as fast as I could, narrowly escaping the infected's grasp and pushing him to one side. I had escaped, but more by luck than judgment. I sped down the alley and back onto the street. When I looked over my shoulder, there was no sign of my pursuers. I could see my house now, just 100 feet or so away. My heart sank when I saw yet another group of infected wandering aimlessly between me and my goal. I decided that it was too dangerous to carry on down the street. I went around the back of one of the neighbors' houses and climbed over the fence into their garden. It was tiring, but I carried on scrambling over the fences until I got to my own backyard.
Nice.
As I approached the house, I noticed the glass in the back door had been smashed and the door left slightly ajar. I was terrified for my wife's safety.
We're gonna find a weapon first.
Broken into the house could still be in there, and without a weapon, I wouldn't be able to help my wife. I headed over.
Chainsaw's too noisy. Sledgehammer's too heavy. Crowbar won't work. Hand axe.
Picked up the hand axe since it was light and easy to use. Although
Yeah,
perhaps
but you
not
wish
the
you
most
had some
powerful.
raw 12s.
With my weapon in hand, I left the shed and walked back to my house. Before I could enter, I discovered why the back door had left ajar. A teenage looter emerged from the house carrying my television, obviously intent on profiting from the crisis. When he saw me, he dropped the TV and pulled out a large kitchen knife. At that moment, I couldn't tell which one of us was more afraid. Let him go, he's just a dude.
That I wasn't going to hurt him, and that he could take
Stop!
the TV and
Cover your
he didn't bother to pick it back up. Instead, he ran over to the nearby fence around over into the neighbor's garden. Having dealt with the looter, I walked in through the back door. I was relieved to finally be safely indoors, but I couldn't rest yet. Not until I was certain my wife was okay.
Barricade the back door.
Shut the back door and locked it, then looked around for some furniture to wedge in front of it. It took me a few minutes to properly secure the entrance, but at least I knew nobody would be able to force their way in. I walked over to John and asked him if he was okay. He turned slowly, revealing pure white eyes and a blood.
What's up? Give me my pillow. Give me it.
Darn it. We're gonna want the hand axe.
I'm a gator on this one. This is my steak. No, Robert. This is my steak.
John was surely infected, so I snuck up behind him and hit him as hard as I could on the back of the head. His skull made a satisfying crack as he fell to the floor dead. I never liked him much anyway. Stop. Both of you get out. Out.
You won't give me my pillow. No, I'm the one who got it. It's my pillow. There it is. Yeah, it is as well. But I think this Elvis pillow mine. Robert!
I pulled myself together and kept searching. I needed to make sure the house was secure before planning my... Hold on 1 second, guys. Will you two get out of here? Honestly, I am recording, and if I hear any of you two playing back here and touching each other, then I am going to beat the crap out of you, and you will not be allowed in here again. Stop. That's right. Stop.
Stop. Shut up, Christopher Walken. Christopher Walken.
Now stay out of my room.
Christopher Walken. Christopher Walken. He kissed her while he was walking.
As I climbed the stairs, I heard an odd shuffling noise coming from my bedroom. I didn't know if it was my wife, a looter, or another of the infected. Knock on the door. And the door slowly and gently knocked as I called out to whoever was inside. My reply was a scream and a call for help. It was my wife's voice. I flung open the door and went inside. The scene had greeted me with a haunt of nightmares for years to come. My beautiful wife was pinned to the floor, desperately trying to fight off one of the infected. I could barely keep the creature at bay. If I didn't act immediately, she would surely die. Nice. When you want me to read this. Wasting no time at all, I smashed the infected over the head with my weapon. I was lucky not to hit my wife by mistake, but at least she was alive.
I was finally reunited with my wife. I dropped the weapon and held her as tightly as I could. In that moment, I was happier than I had ever been, yet the feeling would not last long. I asked her if she was okay, and she showed me her hand. Blood dripped from several bite marks on her fingers. I didn't know if she would become infected or not, or even how much longer she had. She sobbed as I struggled to decide what to do.
Cut off her fingers.
To do something and do it quickly. If I could stop the spread of the infection, I might just be able to save her life. We ran down to the kitchen, took a clean meat cleaver from the knife rack, and tied an improvised tourniquet around her wrist. Within seconds it was over, and I was carefully dressing the wounds with bandages from our first aid kit. I didn't know if she would survive or not, but at least now we had hope. My wife and I spent some time discussing what to do next. We realized that we couldn't stay in the house forever, as it was just too dangerous this close to civilization. We decided that our best bet was to load up the car with food and supplies, and then head for her parents' house out in the country.
I made sure the house was secure. I dragged the corpses down to the basement and helped my wife get everything ready. She looked pale and weak, but didn't seem like she would turn, at least not for a while yet. By the time everything was ready, and it was already nightfall, so we decided to spend one more night at home before hitting the road. I don't think either of us slept that night, but it was better than traveling in the dark. We left at dawn, to be continued. Survive the day? Yes. Save my wife? Yes. Tactics, rank A. You have a solid understanding of zombie outbreaks, and your survival skills are far above average. You'd likely survive a real outbreak. Compassion, rank C. You were once a kind you were once a kind person, but once the outbreak had forced you to become a somewhat self-centered. Okay, well, thank you everybody for watching. That's all the time that I have today. I will see you in the next video. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you feel like it, and I love you all. Goodbye.